This week on the show, we've got some worrying changes coming up over at eBay and at Depop, and a pretty nice announcement from Whatnot. What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to episode number 283 of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and we've got a few things to go over today. Some really concerning announcements from eBay, one of which, for the moment at least, is only in Germany, but another one, which is actually at ebay.com here in the US, a change over at Depop about shipping, and then a kind of a cool announcement from Whatnot for Super Bowl weekend. There will be no What Sold recap this week. If you caught me over on Instagram at Galaxy CDs Rocks, you know it was actually a pretty fairly decent week. I sold 100 and some odd listings, but I only had 4 or 5 things that qualified for kind of my $20 and up What Sold segment. So I'm going to hold on to those until at least Wednesday. I may do them in the live if I do a live this week. If not, they will be wrapped up in next week's show. So with that having been said, let's get into this reselling news.
News updates.
So this appeared over on Value Added Resource, and as always, these will be linked in the show notes and the video description down below. This one really got my attention. I have been on this show a fairly big proponent of eBay's promoted listings general for the type of stuff that I carry. And eBay is making a change in Germany to how those ads will receive attribution. Now, you may recall, and we'll get into this a little deeper further into this article, but they made a change back in the spring to attribution, which allowed them essentially to take credit for what they called halo transactions. So if a potential buyer clicked one of your promoted listings, general listings, a sponsored listing, and then subsequently bought other items from your shop that were also promoted, even though they had not clicked on those specific promoted listings ads, eBay was still going to charge you a promoted listing fee for those items. Now, I personally have found that to be fairly hit or miss. I had one I talked about in last week's What Sold recap, where I had one item that was purchased that was a part of the promoted listings campaign, and then 2 subsequent items that are also promoted that I did not get charged the fee on. To this point, I've yet to be charged those fees. I assume now I'm hopefully in the clear on that, and I'm not going to be charged on them. So even that is not working quite as it should. But that allowed eBay, obviously, to expand the amount of ad revenue that they got for their promoted listings general campaign. This new announcement in Germany is going to expand that in a way that is actually really pretty mind-blowing. So again, this article is over on Value Added Resource, and hat tip to Liz, as always, for sussing this out for us. eBay is making major changes to promoted listings ad attribution in Germany, massively expanding the number of sales which will collect ad fees. And she asks, will the US be next? You may recall that Germany, Europe, and the UK are kind of testing grounds for some of these things. They tend to trial them in these kind of smaller markets to see what the response is in terms of feedback and actions and what the results for the business are. So this could be a dry run for something that could be coming here to the United States. German sellers received notice last week to changes in the promoted listings basic general cost per sale attribution that will open up a whole new world of revenue for eBay. The update gets rid of distinctions between direct and halo attribution, and instead will assess ad fees for any sale where any buyer clicked on the ad, even if that isn't the buyer who ultimately ends up making the purchase. Let that one sink in for a second. I'm gonna read it again because the first time I read it, I had to read it twice to make sure that I actually was comprehending what this said. Instead, they will assess ad fees for any sale where any buyer clicked on the ad, even if that isn't the buyer who ultimately ends up making the purchase. That is, if you follow Liz over on Facebook and Value Added Resource, the comment section on the post attached to this article had a lot of questions about the legality, let alone the ethical ramifications of this. The new policy goes into effect on February 26th of 2025. And the notice that went out to sellers said from February 26th, the following will apply to items listed on ebay.de. So again, this is specific to the German eBay site. eBay will record an attributable sale from a base campaign, which is the version of the promoted listing general campaign, when a buyer purchases the same item advertised in the ad clicked by any buyer in the last 30 days. The ad fee is charged when a buyer purchases the item advertised in a basic ad that was clicked by any buyer in the last 30 days. In case they weren't clear the first time, they virtually repeated the exact same sentence a second time. Man, the item must be advertised with an ad both at the time of the click and at the time of the sale. So that is a bit of a change. The ad fee is based on the ad rate in effect at the time of the sale. Kind of a lot to digest there. So I click your ad, and then next week you take that ad down and another buyer buys it. You will not be charged the fee. So that seems fair enough, because the first part of it is completely unfair, in my opinion. You can let me know in the comments what you think, but I just find this whole thing to be absolutely ridiculous. The ad fee is also based on the rate that's effect at the time of the sale. So again, if I click your ad, and your ad rate at that time is 7%, let's just say, and then you lower your ad rate to 5%, and another buyer comes along next week and buys it, you'll only pay the 5%. So the way the attribution is working is very different, but the key thing is that if anybody clicks on your ad, that ad is effectively in play for the next 30 days, regardless of who actually makes the purchase. Liz goes on to say, yes, you read that right. If an ad has been clicked on by any buyer, her emphasis, in the last 30 days, the seller will be charged the ad fee, even if it ends up being purchased by a completely different buyer who never clicked on the ad. Again, let me know in the comments what your opinions are on this. I'm just mystified that this can even be legal. It seems like at best false attribution. You're crediting the next buyer for an action that I took when I clicked on the ad, and that just seems to me like it would run into all kinds of regulatory hurdles. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but that just seems like beyond the pale to me. Interestingly, the update also changes the time frame in which an ad fee might apply. Previously, if you ended a campaign, you could still be charged an ad fee if the sale occurred within 30 days of the last click. So again, in the case of the Promoted Listing General program here in the States, if I click your ad today and you take the ad down tomorrow, and 28 days from now, I come back in and I actually buy that item, you would still be charged the ad fee, because in eBay land, the thing that caused me to purchase that was their ad of that item 28 days ago. So that's how the program has always worked. Here, it's going to change at least. So if the ad is removed, if you stop doing promoted listings at any point, all of those clicks go away. If I was a betting man, based on the way the rest of this campaign is set up, I would imagine they will eliminate that part at some point, because that seems like a prospect to lose a lot of revenue. Anyway, now it appears that the ad campaign still has to be active for the attribution to count, so ending a campaign should stop the possibility of being charged the fee. eBay's email notice to sellers about the changes provided additional information and answers in a frequently asked questions section. Why did eBay make this change? We help sellers get the most out of their eBay experience and continue to invest in tools that help them reach more buyers and grow their business. This update simplifies reporting for base campaigns while giving sellers control over their base campaign spend. You still only pay when your item sells. That is true. But it leaves out the important point that it no longer requires that the same person who clicked the ad to make the purchase. A random person who roams in the next 30 days and buys this, whether they clicked on a promoted listing ad for that item or not, you're going to get charged the fee. I can see this taking my current situation. About 60 to 62% of all of my transactions on eBay are from promoted listings. I would have to guess, based on the number of clicks that I get as part of that campaign, that that number would probably jump to 80, 85, maybe as much as 90%, based on the number of clicks currently happening that don't result in purchases, because again, it's only attached to that one person that clicked. Now you're opening up all of those thousands of clicks to be purchased by other people and still have that fee be paid. And again, bear in mind at the moment, this is only in Germany. It is not on eBay.com. It is not in the US or any other market. It's just in Germany. But we got to get out in front of this one and start raising some noise, because this is something that, in my opinion, just cannot be allowed to happen. Sellers no longer need to differentiate between direct sales and Halo item sales, and reports and ad fees are more predictable because clicks on the ad and a subsequent sale of the promoted item are now attributed to promoted offers. That is an absolutely, in my opinion, disingenuous paragraph. My only concern is that a buyer who clicks the ad and purchases the item, I feel like eBay is fully justified in taking that fee. I agreed to promote the item. That promoted ad caused a person to click and then make a purchase. Absolutely, I should pay a fee. If, again, you click the ad and another person comes in and doesn't click the ad and makes a purchase, I don't feel like I, as a seller, should have to pay you, eBay, the fee for a person who did not click on the ad to make a purchase. That is just, I know I keep saying the same thing. I just can't wrap my head around, other than from a financial standpoint, why anybody thought this was a good idea. And differentiating between direct and Halo sales, I'm not a fan of the Halo sale program. I've made that very clear here previously. It at least is a little more understandable because it's the same person, it's the same buyer at least, who clicked the ad, who came back later and made a purchase. I don't like it. I don't like that it lasts 30 days when, as an affiliate for eBay, I only get credit for 24 hours on my clicks. I have some issues there, but at least that one, I can draw a line between the original click and the sale that are both potentially at least connected to that ad. In this case, that is absolutely not true. Again, I'm editorializing a lot here and this is taking forever, but this is a hugely, hugely consequential change. And I feel like it warrants not only my rage and concern, but yours as well. In other words, when a seller's ad receives a click and the item then sells, the ad fee is charged. Sellers will continue to pay only when their item sells. They always have the option to opt out of the promoted listings ads program or use an alternative ad product to reach more buyers and make more sales. Will updating the allocation increase my base campaign spend? We expect that sales will increase as a result of ads running a base campaign strategy. I don't know where they come up with that. This particular change is not going to make more people see your item because it's attributing sales to the ad to people who did not see and or click on the ad. So I don't see any connection whatsoever between you running this campaign and increased sales, only increased fees. Again, you can correct me if I'm wrong in that assertion. I absolutely agree with the program. I have no problem running a promoted listing program to promote my listings and to pay for those sales that come about as a result of that. But saying that running that campaign is going to increase your sales for people who aren't even seeing the ad is it's not accurate. Therefore, spend on base campaigns may also increase. Well, of course, because they're going to attribute sales to ads that did not reach your buyer. Crazy. Absolutely insane. We recommend that sellers monitor their ad performance and adjust their strategy accordingly. I've already said in Liz's Facebook post on this issue that should this come to the US, despite me being a big proponent of the promoted listings general campaign for my listings, running at 7%, which is a lot more than a lot of folks do, I would have to consider either reducing my percentage to account for these additional sales that are going to cost me money that are not the result of the ad actually being clicked, or to just suspend the campaign altogether and take my chances with running just traditional organic listings, which I talked about it in the show I did, whatever it was, almost 2 years ago now when I started doing promoted listings. I realized about a net 30% increase in sales by using the program. This change will not increase my sales. It will only increase my fees paid for those sales, because that 38 to 40% of the people who are not clicking on ads, now potentially I will be charged the fee for them making that purchase, even though they found my item organically. Uh, Wow. Just wow. Why is this change happening now? We're announcing this update after the peak holiday and bank holiday season to ensure sellers aren't disrupted or distracted during the busiest time of year. This will also hopefully give sellers enough time to observe the impact of this allocation update and adjust their strategies accordingly ahead of their other seasonal moments in 2025, such as back to school or the holidays. If you're a seller in Germany, to be fair, I don't know what my listener base is in Germany, but if you're an eBay seller in Germany, definitely chime in on this thing and let me know your feelings on it, whether you are running a campaign or not currently. I'm curious what you folks think about this, because it doesn't even affect me. And I'm probably pretty clear. I'm fired up about this. I think this is one of the most ridiculous things I have seen eBay do in the 20 plus years I've been selling on eBay. We're also announcing the rollout 30 days in advance to give sellers time to review the update, ask questions, and help eBay and the community prepare. How can sellers disable this update? Sellers who list items on ebay.de, and again, remember, only in Germany for the time being at least, and promote them with a basic campaign strategy, cannot opt out of this update. However, you have the option to terminate your participation in the advertising program at any time, or again, to use alternative eBay advertising products such as ads with a premium campaign where you're paying per click, which for most of us and the stuff we sell is even worse than this particular campaign, or to use external ads or shop ads. What is eBay doing to prevent competitors from clicking on ads to trigger the 30-day organic buyer period? eBay takes spam and fraudulent activity seriously and uses robust technologies and processes to ensure the safety of buyers and sellers. Color me skeptical on that one. I don't have any inclination to believe that eBay will be able to monitor false clicks. I just don't. I don't see it. Let me know if you disagree with that sentiment. But based on how the rest of their technology works, the idea that they are going to be able to differentiate between a fraudulent, malicious other seller clicking on your ad and a legitimate ad from a potential buyer, I just don't. I can't imagine that they have that capacity. Sellers are discussing the changes in the ebay.de community forum, where eBay staff are answering questions, including mentioning that the priority premium cost per click ads will have exclusive access to the top spot in search, and a tidbit about clicks from social media sharing that may reveal more about what is driving eBay to make these changes. A seller promotes their products through other channels such as social media and email. Will this updated attribution logic now also take those sales into account and calculate the ad rate? If a buyer clicks on the advertised listing and the item is sold within 30 days to any buyers who may be different from the one who clicked on the ad, the seller will be charged the advertised item's advertising rate at the time of sale. In the scenario where the buyer purchases the advertised item after clicking on a social media post or email but never clicked on the ad, the seller would still see a sale attributed to the advertised listings and would be charged the purchased item's ad rate at the time of sale if there was at least one click from anyone on the ad for the item sold within the last 30 days. I give them credit here for being completely transparent with this. If I run an email marketing campaign, I send out a newsletter, I run my items on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and promote them myself, it doesn't matter if Joe Blow clicked that thing 28 days ago and 50 people from my ad campaign, from my email campaign, go and buy items that are still being promoted at the time they make a purchase, I'm going to pay fees on all those items if they have been clicked previously by a buyer through a promoted listing. That is just remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. What happens to attribution for direct sales and Halo item sales for campaigns with a base campaign strategy? For items listed on eBay.de and promoted with a basic campaign strategy, direct attribution and Halo item attribution will no longer be used for reported sales or when collecting fees. However, direct and Halo item assignment will also be available in the future for items that are listed outside of eBay.de, for example, on ebay.com or .co.uk, and advertise with a basic campaign strategy. So if you're on ebay.com, for the time being, at least your program is not changing. If you sell on both, if you're on ebay.de and ebay.com, those clicks are counted separately because they occur on completely different sites. So purchases made on ebay.com would not be affected by clicks on ebay.de. Clear as mud, right? Campaigns that use a premium strategy are not affected at all by this attribution update because, of course, you're paying every time somebody clicks, not just when an item sells. Does this put sellers on ebay.de at a competitive disadvantage? eBay says no. The new attribution logic will be applied to all items listed on ebay.de and promoted with a basic campaign strategy. In addition, sellers who list offers on ebay.de now have exclusive access to the first position of their ad in the search results if they promote their offers with a premium strategy. So again, you're running a promoted listing basic or general campaign, and the next person has the same exact item and they are running it on a premium strategy, they're going to get the number one spot every time. You're not competing for that spot. You might get the next spot, or you'll be competing with everybody else that's running a general campaign, but you're not going to get any priority treatment, which, to be fair, makes sense. If this person is paying for premium campaign, they should get premium placement. Again, for my business, I'm not a fan of that program. I don't want to pay for the millions of clicks I get every month that don't result in sales. It would bankrupt me in no time. These and other improvements to the premium campaign strategy are intended to give sellers who use a cost per click strategy an advantage in this ebay.de highly competitive market. So part of this appears to be a strategy to try to push people into a cost per click premium advertising model. In the scenario where the buyer purchases the advertised item after clicking on a social media post but never clicked on the ad, the seller would still see a sale attributed to the advertised listing and would be charged the purchased item's ad rate at the time of the sale if there was at least one click again from anyone on the ad for the item sold within the last 30 days. This part of the new policy could prove particularly important as eBay looks to capitalize on their new partnership with Meta that will allow eBay items to be shown on Facebook Marketplace in Germany, France, and the US. So remember, if you're running a campaign in Germany and your ad is chosen to appear on Facebook and somebody clicks on it, that's going to count as well. Wow. Again, just wow. Clearly, I'm not speechless because I've been rambling for like 25 minutes about this already, but holy Toledo. As I said at the beginning, Germany is often used as a testing ground for policies and new features that eventually find their way to other markets. For example, when eBay dropped their Promoted Listing Express ad offering and added auctions to Promoted Listings Basic/General, instead, they started in Germany. Given that history and the Facebook partnership, it won't be surprising if this new attribution model expands throughout the year and may even include the US at some point, quote, soon, especially with eBay being increasingly desperate to increase ad revenue by any means necessary. There are a couple other factors at play here that I just want to mention kind of in passing. This indicates, for starters, I said this a couple of months ago, we're completely 100% reliant on eBay's honesty in the accuracy of the click information that we're already receiving. And a lot of people I know are skeptical of those numbers. But that's the numbers that we're given. There's no third-party way to verify that those clicks are or are not on promoted listings. You're totally at the mercy of eBay for this, for starters. The second thing is, eBay is increasingly, through these kinds of changes, showing the world, the investment community, in my opinion, they don't have any idea at all how to increase the gross merchandise volume of their business, to increase their user base, buyers and or sellers, and generate through that more revenue for their business. They have not got any idea how to do that. And they are attempting, again, to squeeze every single nickel out of their sellers through changes to ad campaigns and promoting these ad campaigns and requiring sellers to pay more and more and more to participate on eBay. That to me should be calling into question. Again, I've tried to be really positive about eBay. It's still 80% of my business. I'm not going to not sell on eBay, but for me, it certainly calls into question the level of expertise of their C-suite executives, because they don't have any ideas about how to grow their business outside of increasing the revenue that they're getting on already existing sales. There's no growth there. There's no gross merchandise volume growth. User base on both buyer and seller side appears to be continuing to decline quarter over quarter. And if I was an individual investor, a corporate investor looking at eBay, this kind of stuff would make me super, super nervous. Let me know what you think about any of this in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube or listening over on Spotify. Or if you want to have a discussion about this, if we're live on Wednesday, we can talk about this. So feel free to join us there. Be on the lookout for that. Moving on, another change at eBay that's kind of concerning. eBay evolves the top-rated policy, no longer allowing the withholding of shipping on false item not as described claims. This is something sellers have noticed for some time, that eBay essentially is just now officially acknowledging what sellers have been experiencing for months, saying that the top-rated seller policy has, quote, evolved to no longer allow sellers to withhold original shipping from refunds on false, not as described claims. The issue came up again this week when a seller in the eBay community asked if the tool that allowed top-rated sellers to withhold shipping on those claims in certain situations had been removed. In the past, the writer said, top-rated sellers were allowed to withhold shipping from buyers who abuse the system and claim item not as described versus size, etc., to avoid return shipping costs. I distinctly remember eBay initiating this policy and allowing us to report the buyer and toggle off the return shipping when we did the return. It appears this has been taken away from top-rated sellers, or am I wrong? I haven't had a return in almost 90 days. The last time I had one, it was for an item not as described claim. That for me, the toggle was still there when the item came back for me to be able to undo, not refund the shipping. I didn't file a claim on that one for a false reporting of an item not described, which is maybe why that's the case. Let me know in the chat if you've had this happen. Other sellers had chimed in to confirm that eBay did previously offer this option for top-rated resellers to retain the original shipping amount in the very specific instance where they had reported the buyer under the abusive buyer policy before the not as described claim was filed. So again, if you didn't preemptively note it, you weren't going to be able to do it anyway. Anyway, to illustrate that point, they referenced a different eBay community post from July of last year, which discussed rather the possible pitfalls of exercising that option, namely that the seller would not be refunded their fees on the transaction, which could end up costing them more than the shipping amount that was withheld. There was a seller who commented they had done this inadvertently. The toggle was there. In my case, I've noticed the toggle is always to not refund shipping, and you've got to manually click it to refund the shipping. In this particular case, the seller did not. I inadvertently withheld the $7.25 in original shipping at the cost of losing my $33 in fee credit. Again, any way that eBay can make or keep some of your money for not doing anything, they seem to be pretty excited to do. Anyway, there's a video, there'll be a link in this article, of course, to a video by Flippin' Ain't Easy where he talks about this. Finally, after months of confusion and no answers from eBay, Kyle at eBay has now responded to this most recent post advising that the policy has evolved since last July and confirming that eBay no longer allows top-rated sellers this option for items not as described claims. So other than the 10% discount and fees, somebody remind me what the advantage of not offering returns and all the rest of that is to be a top-rated plus seller. There's been some evolution of the program. He said currently a seller can deduct the original shipping cost only on a remorse return where the buyer paid original shipping. I do not believe, he said, anything else changed recently with regards to this process, but rest assured we will continue pushing to get more updates and share them with the community as much as possible. Call me skeptical on that as well. While it's good to finally have an official answer, Liz says, it's troubling that it took months to do so and that it only came in a community staff response rather than a proactive announcement or a public policy change update. And even more troubling that an eBay employee doesn't seem exactly sure himself whether or not any other unannounced changes have been made. Top-rated seller status, as I kind of alluded to there a moment ago, requires sellers to go above and beyond to provide excellent service to buyers and maintain high rating in eBay's seller matrix. The payoff for that hard work was supposed to be certain benefits like additional seller protections. In fact, eBay still allows top-rated sellers to receive a $6 credit on return shipping costs for false, not as described claims and to withhold up to 50% of the item price if the item is returned in used or damaged condition. So it's hard to wrap my head around why this particular change would have been made. If you have any insight into it, let me know in the comments down below. Why wouldn't top-rated sellers also deserve to withhold the original outbound shipping costs as well in cases where they've reported the buyer for violating policies against abuse? That cost, of course, has already been paid to the carrier, and the original delivery is not recoverable any other way. And if the buyer abused the policy by falsely claiming the item was not as described, the seller shouldn't have to eat that cost, Liz concludes, and I agree 100%. Let me know in the comments below what you think of that change to top-rated seller status. This article over on E-commerce Bytes. This is one that's been going on actually for some time. Sellers have been talking about the fact that eBay search has not been working, period. Certainly not been working well or not been working accurately. And eBay finally is saying that, in fact, their IT department is working to fix the search engine. eBay acknowledged a problem with its search engine on Monday, the article says, in response to a longtime seller who left a comment on their Facebook page. The seller said that a few months ago they noticed that entering a fairly precise inquiry still yields a number of unrelated items, which is I have found to be the case in virtually every search I've done on eBay over the last couple of years. You get all kinds of unrelated or erroneous results in your search results. It just doesn't make any sense, some of the stuff that pops up. We appreciate you, they said, bringing this to our attention. We have been notified of the problem, and our IT department is working hard to fix it. We understand how much this can impact your business. We'll be happy to assist with any future issues, they said. How about we just fix this one? Over the past year or two, the search function has gotten progressively worse, said one user, and said, it seems like each month I get more and more junk results not related at all to what I'm searching for. The original poster said they got inconsistent results on eBay, writing, and this is, I see all of this like every single day. You probably do too. Word order matters a lot. If I search for, quote, Black Lotus MTG right now, I get 380 results. But if I search for MTG Black Lotus, I get 503 results. How the heck is this even possible? It's the same keywords. It's the same dang search, just in a different order. Sorting by lowest price, highest price, etc. changes everything as well. If I change the 503 MTG Black Lotus search to sort by lowest, it turns from 503 results to 118. I've noticed this as well. If I go in and I search for something, and when I'm trying to do comps and I make a change, I try to change the type or resort it, it returns completely new results with always more or less. That's not even consistently less. It's just a different number, and it really shouldn't be possible. Another eBayer responded, eBay search does not work like Google search, which stinks since that is a reasonable expectation. They pointed out that adding a word to a search term on eBay could bring back more results instead of fewer. So, again, you would think that if you put an additional descriptor into your search term, it would narrow the search further. But what it appears to do instead is to expand it. The case they used here is search Black Lotus MTG Pokemon, which in the Google search world would help drill down to fewer listings. But on eBay, you'll get even more listings. That total goes from 503 to over 1,600. So I don't know. I've not tried it. I don't know if you put it in quotations, if that makes a difference on eBay, where like on Google, when you put things in quotes, it looks for that specific phrase. I don't know if that would work on eBay. I'll have to try it, I guess, and see. But in this case, just adding additional words actually expands the search, because in this case, it searches for Black and Lotus and MTG and Pokemon and now returns 1,600 plus listings. For items highly valued by shoppers, it may be worth their while to spend time crafting and fine-tuning search queries, but for people looking for items they don't wish to spend time searching for, may grow disenchanted if eBay doesn't fix the problem. Its Facebook moderator acknowledged on Monday. And again, that is absolutely true. If I'm just casually looking for something and I put in what I think is a valid search for that thing, and it returns ridiculous numbers of erroneous, irrelevant results, I'm not likely to spend a lot of time trying to fix my search to properly find that item. I'm just going to go to Amazon. As a seller, when I'm trying to do comps, I have to go through that song and dance. I've got to be more specific. I've got to try to tweak my search to make sure I'm getting the right kinds of listings and the right kinds of items in my results, so that I can appropriately price my item. So I'm in a different situation. But as a buyer, would I go through all that? Would I change my search query 2, 3, 4, 5 times to find an item I'm not really all that pressed about? Or would I just go somewhere else and try the same thing? Let me know in the comments. I have a feeling my comments section is going to be pretty full this week. Enough about eBay. Let's move on to Depop. This one is also, it's puzzling because of its lack of clarity. I understand probably the principle behind this, but it's troublesome because it's not particularly clear. Depop has new shipping terms. Orders will be automatically canceled if not shipped on time. Etsy-owned Depop has updated their terms of service using the threat of automatically canceled orders to, quote, encourage sellers to ship items quickly. Buyers were notified of the change in an email touting a less stressful, more confidence-boosting experience, and this goes into effect February 24th, so 3.5 weeks from now. Buy with confidence. Heads up, we're updating our shipping and protection policies to make shopping on Depop even more reliable and stress-free. This is what's changing. As of February 24th, 2025, sellers will have a set time frame to ship an order. If they don't ship in time, it will be automatically canceled, and the buyer will receive a full refund. How does this benefit you? You can shop with confidence. If sellers don't ship your item in time, we'll cancel the order for you and give you your money back. You'll save time. You can relax, as we'll keep you up to date with the status of your order, and you'll no longer have to manually dispute any unshipped purchases. You'll get your items even faster. With tighter shipping deadlines and reminders, sellers will be motivated to ship quickly, speeding up your delivery. This is one that's always kind of troubled me anyway. I don't understand why sellers are not already motivated to ship their item and get it out the door and get the sale finished and on to the next. I don't sell on Depop, so I don't know what their payment hold policy is. But if you're selling on Mercari, obviously you got to get the thing out, because until you get rated, until the item is delivered, you can't get paid. So I've never understood why some sellers are so slow to ship items. I get, especially if you're a part-time seller, you might have a 2 or 3 day business handling. I know some sellers that do maybe ship 2 or 3 times a week rather than every day. And those things, I'm totally fine with all of that. But I've had cases where items didn't ship for 10, 12 days, and that just makes no sense to me. So I understand Etsy and Depop's desire to get their arms around this. The problem, of course, comes in because they haven't been specific. The change is likely not going to be less stressful for sellers, especially since the updated terms don't actually specify what that set time frame will be. Um, how do you do that? How do you institute a new policy stating that sellers have to ship by a certain time and not publish what that time is? I don't. If you work for Depop and happen to be hearing this, let me know. I assume they will clarify this before the policy actually goes into effect in late February. But it feels like it would be a important piece of information for sellers to have. The old policy said dispatch your item to the buyer's address as soon as possible and in accordance with any timelines set out in your shop policy. So again, if you said you have 3 business days handling, you've got 3 business days to ship it. In order to qualify for Depop protection in the UK, US, or Australia, you must be able to demonstrate that your item was shipped in accordance with the timelines set out in the Depop protection program for sellers. The new policy adds the following verbiage. If you are based in the US and fail to ship your item within a reasonable time, your order may be automatically canceled and refunded. So this appears to be US only, at least based on that change to the policy. So be aware of that. The shop policies have an option for the seller to enable next day dispatch. So it makes sense that the first sentence is just telling sellers if they have that enabled, they'll need to follow that timeline, but that part didn't change. The Depop protection program says in order to qualify, sellers have to ship within 5 days from the transaction. That part of the terms didn't change either, and that time frame also is not new. The Internet Archive Wayback Machine shows that that's been the case since at least 2023. So I don't know if they're just assuming that everybody is going to take this 5-day number as the cutoff date for having shipped the item or not, but that there's no specificity to the program. Importantly, the time frame only applies to the part about criteria for the shipment to qualify for the Depop protection program. It does not say this new auto cancellation policy will use the same time frame. So again, it's still up in the air. That leaves the only part that is actually still new, very vague and ambiguous, the article says, and it just says if you fail to ship within a reasonable time, buyers, sellers, Depop themselves could all have very different ideas about what constitutes reasonable. I guess I would assume, which we all know what happens if you do that. But I would make the assumption that that 5 days is probably a pretty reasonable guideline to use. It would make sense for Depop to use the same guideline for their protection program as they do for this new auto cancel program. If it's not shipped by the end of the 5th business day, it's automatically canceled. Let me know what you think. Would that be fair for most people? Probably so. But again, the lack of detail and the lack of specificity calls into question what this would be. And again, as I talk about on this show with great regularity, the lack of transparency and clarity is what makes sellers rip their hair out. Liz, of course, scoured other help pages on Depop's site, and at the time of publishing this article, did not see anything that actually specifies that set shipping time frame that goes into effect next month. So there you go. If you're a seller on Depop, there's a new shipping policy coming that is, at this point in time, quite vague. Last thing we've got for you. This is just a quick one. This just dropped this morning. It's Sunday as I record this. Whatnot sent out a message. Go for 2%. 2% fees for 24 hours before the big game. Gear up for the big game. Score 2% commission on all sales, auctions, and marketplace for the 24 hours leading up to the biggest game of the year from February 8th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern to February 9th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Go live and take advantage of reduced fees. The promotion only applies to the commission Whatnot collects for each sale and does not apply to the payment processing fees, which will remain unchanged. 2.9% plus 30 cents will be collected as normal. Run a sale from 6:30 p.m. Eastern the day before the Super Bowl until 6:30 the day of the Super Bowl. Everything you sell, you will pay 2% fees on instead of the normal, which is 8%. That was a mess, folks. But please chime in the comments and let me know what you think of any of this. Obviously, I'm pretty worked up. I have been since this all kind of went live. I thought about doing a separate show about the change over in Germany and decided not to because it is at the present time, it represents such a small piece of eBay's big business, but it was definitely something worth talking about. So I didn't do a separate show for it at the time, but I've been stewing about it since I read about it. It is just a absolutely egregious, desperate cash grab, in my opinion. I think I don't, again, not a lawyer, don't know anything about what Germany's regulations are about ad attribution. I just can't imagine that that would pass muster here in the United States. Let me know what you think. If you happen to be an ad attorney of some sort, let us know in the comments what your opinion of this is. Come on the show and let's talk about it, because I just can't imagine that this is. It might be legal, I suppose, but it is, in my opinion, highly, highly, highly unethical. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time. Again, more than likely, we will do a live show on Wednesday. And if I sell a few more interesting things, we'll cover those in the live show on Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll save them to next week. But come hang out on Wednesday, either way, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and let's talk reselling. Clearly, based on today's show, there's a lot that we can talk about going on with some of these platforms. If you got something out of this, if you found it useful, informative, entertaining, please do me a favor if you're watching on YouTube and hit that thumbs up button. If you're not currently a subscriber to the YouTube channel or a follower of the podcast, I would appreciate if you would do that as well. Would love to have you on board. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time here. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, guys. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.